You can come from any political persuasion and be upset by this. It shouldn't just be a left or right issue, because while we're fighting amongst each other, they're able to pull the strings and get away with effectively murder, profit. They see us as cattle, but the flames ravaged the place. It was almost like a firestorm. I can't imagine a more hellscape place. Well, it's time to depart Giessen. Giessen has served me well, I have to say. Nice, quaint little town. And I was right when I read about the history of Giessen. Over 75% of the town was destroyed during the Second World War. So no wonder they had to endure these 1950s, 1960 buildings that we saw in the centre, and the detriment of town planners that insist on red paving stones and things like that. But that didn't stop the locals being really kind and nice to me last night. And that's what I generally find about all of Germany. You should never be put off about visiting Germany because the people are fantastic. But there's a lesson. There's going to be cities in Ukraine such as Mariupol, which will be, from the air, to be almost 100% destroyed. That is what the Russian invaders are doing to Ukraine right now. Germany experienced it through, in part, their own fault, whereas Ukrainians never asked to be invaded. Never asked to be invaded, and they endured invasion after invasion after invasion. Before the Russians, it was the Soviets. Before the Soviets, it was the Germans. And before then, they had the Mongol hordes, they had the Ottomans. They've just been a constant thoroughfare for constant invasions. But because of that grit and determination to say no, the Ukrainians won't stand for it. And that's exactly why we have to continue on our journey, and we need to get this delivered to Ukraine. So join me for the next part of this journey.
The biggest problem I'm having is I don't have a social media team. I don't have people in the Philippines or anywhere doing my social media. So every time you see a video that's gone up, that means I have to sit down at my laptop, upload the footage from this little camera in front of me, put it into the laptop, then edit. Now, I had a real problem last night. So I got back from Giessen. That's where I was. It was in Giessen. I just had that beautiful burger if you saw my last video. My whole laptop started freezing up. Now, sometimes just too much footage is sometimes too much to take for the laptop. You need external SSD drives, which is what I have, but that's now full. So I was frantically trying to delete stuff, trying to free up space, to having to clean up the computer. That ran for half the night. It wasn't until this morning did I finally manage to get my computer working where it's not jerking around and, yeah, meaning I could edit. So obviously that delays things, editing footage, uploading it. I've just sat inside this little service station. If you saw my last video, you'd hear the background noise. That was me editing in there. But obviously that delays things. If you were just driving straight to Ukraine and you're not worrying about uploading footage and things like that, or you had a partner with you who was able to edit while you're in the driving seat, which would have been the best thing to do, then you could probably get there faster. But that's the reason things are slightly slower than I'd expected. That, and also it's the amazing amount of roadworks I experienced in Belgium and also West Germany. I'm going to head to Dresden. Simple reason. 2 days ago, it was 81 years since the Dresden destruction. The perplexing thing is, every single year, Antifa turn up to basically try to stop people commemorating that day. I'm going to go visit Dresden. Hopefully I'll get there before dark, but I'm making slow progress. So that's the plan. Let's try to get to Dresden before dark. The time currently is now 1:15. So wish me luck, wish me luck.
A big thank you to all of you for continuing to watch this video. Advertising revenue from these videos will go directly to Car for Ukraine. Also, super chats will go to Car for Ukraine, but it is far better to donate directly to the website. That way there is no middleman taking a cut such as YouTube. So please give direct to the website Car for Ukraine. For those wondering, the reason to donate a vehicle like this, the Toyota Hilux, and drive it all the way from London to Ukraine is to put it into the hands of the 82nd Assault Brigade, who are based near Pokrovsk. The 82nd is an elite Ukrainian assault unit, one of the brigades holding some of the hardest lines on the Eastern Front.
Their job is so intense, they storm positions daily, clearing trenches, repelling daily attacks from the Russian invaders, and most importantly, these guys get wounded soldiers off the front lines fast. Every minute counts in those evacuations, so a reliable armoured pickup like this one gives them the mobility to move people, medical gear, and supplies through shelling and mud where regular vehicles just won't make it. This isn't about politics, it's about giving brave people one more tool to survive and protect their homes. If that matters to you, the link to help fund the upgrades and delivery is in the description. Every penny counts, and thank you for honestly watching.
So I've parked up and find myself in Dresden for the first time. I don't know what to expect, and it's interesting because as I arrive, this would be 81 years ago, exactly to the time that the bombs stopped dropping on Dresden. They began dropping on the 13th of February 1945, and the final bomb of that campaign was dropped. I'm interrupted by the Google there. And then the final bomb was dropped on the 15th of February 1945. And by the end of it, after all the buildings had burnt down and destruction, 25,000 civilians were dead and so many more injured. Yeah, I don't know what to expect, but I'm here only out of respect. And appreciate it was 81 years ago, but I think it's important that we acknowledge these events. And I'm sure over the next decades we're going to acknowledge all of the lost lives in Ukraine as well. I should find my hotel around this corner, I think. I hope. How's this for 40 euros? I appreciate that it's Sunday night, but it's kind of stylish, isn't it? 40 euros? Third floor, seems quiet. Got everything you need. Look at this crazy, crazy blue sink. Shower seems to work. That's all you really need, isn't it? Yeah. That will do for one night. Now I appreciate I've only literally just arrived. I've had a shower. And now I'm venturing out onto the streets of Dresden. But first impressions, it reminds me of Berlin. And as everyone who ever watches my channel knows, I'm a big fan of Berlin. It's this kind of stark brutalism. You can see touches of Soviet architecture in parts, industry. I hear Dresden, before it was bombed by the Allies, used to be a very, very beautiful place. It was almost considered Florence of the East or something along those lines. But now it's obviously modernized since it stopped being East Germany. But it does have that Berlin feel to it. So I'm heading from the west, staying on the edge at the Radisson Prize Hotel. Apparently that's their budget edition. I stayed in Radisson Blues and the top ranging Radissons back in the days of my business days, but never a prize Radisson. But apart from the tiny little desk, which is about 2 inches wide, it's quite a nice room, I think. It's quiet, and for 42 euros, it's not bad value. It's going to be perfect for hopefully editing this later. But have a look. Streets are very quiet. It's freezing. -2 degrees, so it's very cold. It's also a Sunday, you know what's going on a Sunday. But I'm heading to the Dresden Memorial. I thought I want to pay my respects there. You've got to realize there was a conference between the Allies, the West, and the Soviets in Yalta. I think it happened February 2nd or February 3rd, 1945, Yalta. Stalin met with Churchill and the US president, and apparently it's suggested, but it's not on record, but it was suggested that Stalin had urged Churchill to bomb Dresden. Now, there's no record of that. Doesn't mean that record never existed. Certain things still are yet to come out of our history, despite it being 81 years ago. There's a lot in certain extreme circles that suggest the Allies did it as revenge for Coventry, which was heavily bombed by the Germans. But others suggest it was a bombing campaign used to take out the city because the railways were supplying armaments which were disrupting the war effort by the Soviets. So once Dresden was taken out of the equation, it meant the Soviets could storm through Germany with much more ease. What they didn't expect, I think, was the conditions in the weather on the 13th of February to the 15th of February. The bombs hit many targets and also many non-targets, but the flames ravaged the place. It was almost like a firestorm. I can't imagine a more hellscape place. Buildings were on fire. It must have been awful. It must have been awful, but this is the thing, war is awful. The only people that benefit from the war are the banksters, those elites who we're hearing more and more about with the Epstein files. Those that control people like Jeffrey Epstein, they are the same people that control the world, and they have been controlling the world, going right back to the First World War. Same families, same exact families. They're the ones responsible for the total destruction of Europe. They are the ones responsible for all of the infighting that happens in Europe, the division, because while we're fighting amongst each other, they're able to pull the strings and get away with effectively murder, profit. They see us as cattle. They see us as animals. They don't see us on the same level as them, and that's who's ruling over us. But if we came together and we stopped all this infighting, and we said enough, and we said no, I'm not going to take it anymore, to the elites, to those pulling the strings of our puppet prime ministers and puppet presidents, things could change dramatically fast. But because we continue this infighting, this division, this left versus right, liberal versus whatever you want to call it, communists or progressives, all of the terminologies, constant infighting, they get away with everything. They get away with absolute murder, as they have done for decades and decades and decades. But the difference is, it seems, the normies are waking up. And when the normies wake up, that could be a reason for change. When change happens, it could be messy, but it could also be very beautiful. We shall see. But very stark. I'm getting closer to the centre. Still has that Berlin feel about it, but maybe that's just an East Germany thing. Irish bar, the Shamrock Bar. This, I think, is pretty much the centre where these lights are. It looks like almost a Christmas market. That, I think, is close to the memorial. So we're getting to the destination. It still has Christmas decorations. There's a Christmas tree in February, which is kind of nice. I'm not going to object to that. I figure it's a nice tradition in certain parts of the world when you have Christmas extended. You know, when you have such dark winter months, it just seems nice. And nice is an awful word, but it just makes it more wholesome. It makes it more beautiful. But yeah, this looks like a Christmas market. Oh, let's go have a look. That's what I can smell. I can smell the fire roasting. I guess they can call it the Dresden Winterfest. This is kind of cool. You can go ice skating, although it seems to be closed. It's like a course. It's not just a square ice ring. That's really cool. It's like a slalom for ice skating. There. One thing I noticed back there, probably didn't get it on camera, traffic lights here are the same as Berlin, although a slightly different tone when you're crossing, not the New Order not that sound, but the same traffic light man, green guy and the red guy that you see in Berlin. So far, it's a beautiful square. Got floodlights that sort of point down. It's very clean. Really nice. Obviously this is all being built since 1945. I'm sure some of these buildings probably existed before, maybe some are rebuilt, but please forgive my ignorance because it's not a city I've studied in too much detail. It's certainly a city I'd like to come back to at this moment in time, and I'm glad that this little road trip is taking me to a couple of places I've never been before. It's one of the reasons I sort of took this route as opposed to a route 50 miles north or 50 miles south. I had that option. Now let me look at the map to see if I can find this memorial. Well, look at that as I was walking through the square, admiring the winter wonderland with the ice skating, and there's also a ski jump over there, and trying to understand how many of these buildings were here prior to 13th of February 1945. This is the memorial, just very simple. I'm surprised how basic it is. We've had obviously commemorations the last 2 days, so people have lit candles, and to be honest, it's kind of special the fact that the big procession happened on the 13th, but if you think about it, the 15th was the last day of bombings, when the realization of just the complete destruction. But let me just read this to you because I think it's important. At this location, from the end of February to the beginning of March 1945, the bodies of 6,865 people were cremated, and their ashes were interred in a mass grave at Friedhof Cemetery. They were victims of the bombing raids on Dresden from February 13th to the 15th, 1945, during which 25,000 people lost their lives. In 2005, artist Einhard Lotegard, on the occasion of the 60th anniversary, embedded a metallic commemorative trace into the pavement of the square. Additionally, the Altmarkt is identified by a memorial depot as part of the historical narrative of the World War II. Since 1945, February 13th has held a profound significance as a day of remembrance in the capital city of Dresden. Over the years, this Memorial Day has been periodically leveraged for political purposes and reinterpreted. I think you can come from any political persuasion and be upset by this. It shouldn't just be a left or right issue, it should be everyone can pay their respects. On February 13th, we are called to honour the memory of those who perished in the bombings resulting from Germany's initiation of the Second World War, as well as the millions who lost their lives under the brutal Nazi regime. Dresden is keenly aware of its historical responsibility for these crimes against humanity. This remembrance serves as a constant reminder of the imperative to preserve and promote peace both in Europe and across the globe. See, that rather than just sort of paying the respects to the victims here, they still have to be guilt-tripped into what they did. Why not just acknowledge the people that died here? Instead, it's being political, saying, oh, people are trying to gatecrash it because political persuasions, and also trying to remind people of the brutal regime. Just remember the people that died here. But either way, it's a beautiful, touching, small memorial in the fact that all these people have come out in the last few hours to light these candles, and right now I'm the only one here, but in a way I'm pleased by that because it means I'm not talking over them as they contemplate all of these lives that were tragically lost because of war. And I also think that is what we have to consider when we think of Ukraine. The 2 million who have died on both sides, but every single one of those was someone like you or I, and that has been caused by our puppet masters who control the puppets, who we call presidents and prime ministers. There is no reason for these wars because of the BlackRocks of the world, because of the banksters of the world. People are making money from people's deaths. That's what's happening right now. Stepping away from the memorial, I'm reminded of my past. Dresden Bank used to be one of my clients when I was a broker in the city. And of course Dresden Bank being here in Dresden. Dresdner. I think I've been saying it wrong all these years. That's the realization. But I'm not going to make an entire video on the city. We have a busy day tomorrow where there's going to be more driving. Tomorrow I will be driving to Poland, as far into Poland as possible, and then I'll cross into Ukraine, hopefully on the next day. That's the plan. But look at this beautiful, beautiful church. Or is it a cathedral? If it's open, we might go in, and that will be the end of the video. Unfortunately, it is closed. It closed at 3 p.m, so I was never really going to get inside there. But it looks magnificent, and wow, another reason to come back. Maybe in the morning, depending on, maybe in the morning I'll check a little bit more of the city out. But the problem is, it's all the driving I've got to do. I've got to make sure I get there. Anyway, if you appreciated this content, if it meant anything to you, and the Ukrainian men who can have their lives saved with the addition of the truck that I'm bringing to them, if that means anything, if you can contribute a couple of euros, a couple of dollars, please do. If you contribute 100 euros or $100, you'll actually get yourself a patch. You'll get a patch that's on the website. It's going to be handmade. It's a patch that I will also be giving to the soldiers who are in the 82nd Brigade. Will they wear it? Probably not. But maybe there's a memory there for them. At least if the truck keeps them alive, then I'm all for it. But hopefully, until next time, keep progressing, keep wandering, and Slava Ukraini.